Hello everyone, my name is Anna Rejova. I am Canadian regulated immigration consultant, and today I will share all the information we have as of today for students and post-graduation work permit holders in Canada, and those who also are here with visitor status but would like to change the status for the student. I will share the presentation with you shortly. So you can see it now. I will switch for the full screen presentation for you to follow me. This webinar is being prepared with the support of IE Toronto, IE Global, and Canada Point Immigration. If you have any questions regarding your situation, you can forward them to us. At the end of the webinar, you will see my email address. So you're welcome to send any questions you have. You can also ask the questions in the chat. We are answering them right now during the webinar I run. So I will not cover all the questions. I will not be able to cover all the questions I will see in the chat, but I will try to ask my colleagues to answer all of them. Anyways, if you have any specific questions regarding your situation, remember you're always free to contact us or your educational advisor at IAE, and we will find the solution and the answer for your situation. So the agenda of our webinar today is to explain what consequences the COVID-19 situation have for the following groups. The students who continues their studies in May 2020, those who only start their studies in May 2020, recent graduates in Canada or post-graduation work permit holders, and visitors in Canada who needs to apply for study permit or extend their status as a visitor or as a student. We will also consider other groups as relatives who would like to visit you during your studies. So listen us till the end, and I will give you all the data we have and all the recent information obtained from Immigration Service Canada. First group, students who continue their studies in May 2020. It means that, for example, you started your studies in Canada in winter 2020 or before, last fall or last year, 2 years ago, and you keep studying. You can proceed with your studies in May if your institution have the online module for you ready and it was confirmed, or some institutions which are not able to change the studies for online, they are now deferring the studies for fall 2020. I'm sure that if you're a student, everyone has been already contacted regarding what options you have. If you decide to keep studying with the online, that's totally fine. If you're currently outside of Canada, like for example, you went back home for some break, or when this COVID-19 situation started, you're welcome to come back to Canada, or you can study remotely in your country. If you decide to come back to Canada, you have to remember that your study permit should have been issued before March 18. And when you come to Canada, when you arrive, you have to self-isolate yourself for 14 days. And this is mandatory, very serious. Even if you do not have any symptoms, you have to stay at home for 2 weeks. During these online modules, Like if the businesses open one by one, and we will have less restrictions outside, and if you find jobs, you definitely can keep working if you keep studying full time, even online and not in class. So it doesn't matter the module this time, like in this situation, it doesn't matter. And all your studies obtained during this online semester, they will go towards post-graduation work permit. So no worries, all is fine with that. Um, Under in the bottom of each slide, you will see the link where you can find more information about that. This is the official link from the Immigration Canada website. So the second group are the students who should start their studies in May 2020. So you haven't studied yet in Canada, you are the study permit holder, and you can start your studies online, because I doubt that any institution will open the doors for May intake. If you're outside of Canada, yes, you can come if your study permit was issued before March 18. Unfortunately, if it was issued later, you will have to stay at home and wait for fall intake, or take these classes online, but in your home country. Remember, then I will repeat it. If you decide to come to Canada, you will have to you will have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Your online studies again will count towards post-graduation work permit, and you will be able to work in Canada if you are a full-time student, even not in class but online. The second group are recent graduates and post-graduation work permit holders. So, for example, if your studies finished maybe like in December, yeah, and last semester, and you haven't yet applied for a study permit, but you still have an opportunity to apply. Or if you are going to graduate in April, you're good to go with your application for post-graduation work permit. Please remember that to apply, you have just 180 days. And if you are in Canada, you have to maintain your status. So, for example, if your study permit is expiring soon, you will have to change it for visitor, or you will have to be on time for your post-graduation work permit application. If your post-graduation work permit is expiring, unfortunately, as of today, despite the situation with COVID-19, there is no possibility just to extend this open post-graduation work permit. There are some exceptions. The first one is that, for example, if you applied for PR, for permanent residence in Canada, you can also apply for bridging work permit. And it doesn't matter whether it was express entry or it was provincial program, you are still eligible for this bridging work permit if your post-graduation work permit now is still valid. But remember, it doesn't mean that you just entered express entry pool, you're eligible to extend your work permit. No, it's not the case. If you applied for express entry but haven't yet been invited, then you will have to change your status for visitor and wait when you are invited, or maybe for a student. The next situation is that when your employer applied for labor market impact assessment, it received the positive or neutral decision, then you would be able to extend your work permit. But for majority of the qualifications, majority of the jobs, this authorization from the Department of Labor should be obtained. So if you have any questions, regarding your situation, you can write them in the chat right now, or you can address them to us after we are done with the webinar, and you can email or contact your education advisor. Visitors in Canada. It is still allowed to apply for study permit if you are in Canada right now. There are two options for you. The first one is you can apply outside of Canada, but being in Canada, you are applying to the visa office in New York. It doesn't mean that you will have to travel to America, or you will have to mail the application there. You have an option to apply online, and as soon as the decision is made, they will just ask you to send your passport to the visa office to New York. It is operating right now, so because we still get the decisions from there, and they also like working with the passports. So this is an option for you, number one. Option number two is to apply for a change of status from visitor to student, but it works only for those who finished the pathway program in Canada. For example, you studied 16 weeks pathway program with ILAC or ILC, for example, or another language school, and then you obtained a unconditional letter of acceptance from one of the colleges and universities in Canada. You're good to go. You're good to apply for the change of your status inside the country. The immigration service recently, the update was made on April 10. They informed that they would still accept the application from the students, and they will give the priority to those who are going to start their studies in September 2020. But remember, unfortunately, at this point, all the biometrics visa centers and service centers are closed. So, and this is one of the requirements of the study permit issuance. You will not be able to be processed until you have your fingerprints taken. So even if you apply, but you haven't had your fingerprints yet done, you will have to wait when those centers are open. The immigration service now is extending the period of waiting of your fingerprints done from 30 to 90 days. So it means you have the extended time to submit this biometrics to the immigration service. There is one more option for you. You can extend your status in Canada as the visitor, but remember that if you already studied for 24 weeks, you cannot exceed the 6-month period of language studies in Canada, because you will still have to apply for study permit and go like to the first option, which I explained in this section. So just, but you still can extend your status as a visitor, just without the purpose of language studies in your letter of explanation. Or, for example, if you just can't back home, cannot come back home because of the travel restrictions imposed right now in many countries, and you do not plan to study, you just need to spend more time in Canada. Remember that after the date of your arrival to Canada, it doesn't matter whether you hold the visa or you hold the ETA, electronic travel authorization. You just have 6 months in Canada in the status of visitor, even if your visa is valid for 10 years. After the date of your arrival, it's 6 months, and then you either have to leave Canada or extend your status as the visitor or change your status for study permit or another status. If you have your relatives back home and you want them to come, remember that if you are not a PR or Canadian citizen, your parents or relatives cannot yet come to Canada or even apply for temporary resident visa, as it was advised by the Immigration Canada on April 10. So unfortunately, in this situation, you will have to wait when the travel restrictions are removed and they are able to come. So if you are in the situation when you need to extend your study permit, change your status from visitor to student, work permit to visitor, or extend your status as a visitor, we are here to help. You can write to us and we will evaluate your situation and inform you what should be done to proceed. Please like this webinar if you found this information useful for you. Subscribe for our channel as we are going to post a lot of interesting updated information about the recent and upcoming changes from the Immigration Service. Unfortunately, we had to move all these presentations and webinars in online format as we cannot open the doors of IE office for you. But we will be happy to be with you online and to make you aware about everything which is going on with the Immigration Service. Take care, wash your hands, keep the distance, stay safe and healthy, and good luck with your studies. Bye.